Let me get the tweet ready to go.
And we are live. Nice. Excited to talk some NBA tonight. Again with you, Phil. Got some good games tonight. It's a very interesting DraftKings and Fanduel slate that we're working with tonight, where a lot of the high-priced players are probably not going to be very high owned. Like a lot of the high-priced players tonight, outside of maybe LeBron, are guys that people generally haven't been putting in their lineup very often.
Yeah, no, exactly. I
Like
think
the,
LeBron is definitely he's the stud of the night. He's a guy he's gonna go out and get his, especially with Schroeder and Davis out. But other than that, there's a lot of people like the high price players. There's a lot of them that I'm staying away from. So it is going to be interesting. I think it's a very big value night.
yeah, and I mean, if you just look at some of the highest priced players tonight, like none of them are really locks. Like you have Trey Young, who's he's going to score his points, but he doesn't have that triple double upside that usually these high priced guys like Jokic and some of these other players in the league have that aren't playing tonight. So it'll be super interesting. I feel like the ownership tonight is going to be pretty evenly spread out across a lot of guys. Where a lot of times on these NBA slates, you see like 90% or more ownership on some players. I don't think that's really going to be the case today.
No, yeah, you mentioned Trey Young, and he was a guy going into tonight I thought was going to be a lock. I thought he was going to do really, really well. I mean, it's his third matchup with the Celtics in, I think, 10 days or something like that. But with Kemba Walker being ruled out, you really don't know who they're going to throw at him. Peyton Pritchard can run with him. He's a really good defender. Jaylen Brown's probably going to be marking him for the most part. You got Jeff Teague, who's a decent defender. So you really just don't know what the Celtics are going to throw at Trey Young. And like you said, the familiarity bias, like you don't know what's going to happen. I think the Celtics handle him tonight. I'm keeping him out of a few of my lineups, but I definitely think he's a guy you can dabble with and mix in if you have a lot of lower priced value players.
Yeah, Trey Young is a guy that has absolutely torched the Celtics. He's played them twice this season, and in both instances, he completely destroyed the Celtics. I mean, I think, let me pull up these averages. I was just looking at it.
He went for 31 and 40 in the two games.
Yeah, I mean, he's averaging 36, 4, and 10 in two games. And one of those games was without Kemba Walker, and one of those games was with Kemba Walker. So I don't even know if that's going to have that big of an impact. So I think that it's an interesting choice to pay up for him, but he costs a lot. And like on these DFS slates, you really need to, even more so than the NFL. Like you really need to factor in the price. And he's the third most expensive player on DraftKings tonight. He's top 5 on FanDuel too. So I'm not sure you can justify the near 10,000 price tag for him on DraftKings tonight.
So who's the high price guy that you're going with?
I think if you're going to pay up, I'm okay going with LeBron. I mean, the second highest price guy is Steph Curry, and I mean, what happened with him last night? Did you see that where he was kind of out there, and then minutes before the game, just kind of weirdly walked off and said he didn't play for like a variety of reasons?
The Warriors are like back and forth, a good team and a bad team. You never really know, and the injuries play a big part in that. But the mystery of Steph Curry is, it fascinates me this year. I really don't even know what to say about him, but when he balls, he balls. Like he's gonna play really well. But I did not see that. I saw the Warriors kind of scuff it up. I know they have Wiseman and Looney back, but other than that, yeah. I mean, I don't even know what to think about Steph Curry tonight.
Yeah, so basically minutes before the game, Steph Curry was ruled out of the game and didn't play and went into the locker room. So and he's apparently back and playing tonight. So I think he's a very high risk, high reward player. I would only consider him in tournaments, but I don't think he's the high priced guy to go after. And the fourth highest priced point guard of the night is LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball is finally getting the respect he deserves. We were hammering him earlier in the season when he was really catching fire. He's probably been one of my most profitable players on DraftKings this season. But I think my favorite high-priced guy tonight Phil, is Zach LaVine. I mean, the dude has been absolutely on fire. Like he is his over under. If you want to bet on his points, it's 31.5. Like he's going to score over 30 points tonight, and he's getting it done in the rebound and assist column too. He's got some of the highest triple double upside of any player.
Mm-hmm.
So he's probably my the guy I'm most intrigued about at the highest prices.
Yeah, no, the dude's nails, and he's going to up against a Timberwolves team that's not very good. I think they're going to stay in the game though. I don't think that game's blowout watch, so I think it's going to be a good game, and I do think Zach LaVine's probably going to have to score a lot of points for the Bulls to cover that 4.5, 5-point spread. I think it's at right now.
Yeah, the Bulls are 4.5-point favorites, and we're officially live on TikTok, Phil, so the TikTok family can hear you. We're talking some NBA tonight, and yeah, the Bulls game, they're favored by 4.5. I was very intrigued. The very first part of my process for the NBA, Phil, is just kind of like look through Walter's projections for the night before I even kind of look at the props. Mm-hmm. And when we have Zach LaVine projected for 30 points tonight, and I was expecting to hammer that prop, and then I go over to the prop, and his over-under is 31.5, absolutely insane, and he's rightfully so an all-star this season.
Yeah, very much rightfully so. Well deserved.
We got a good question, Phil. First question of the night on TikTok, and it's a good one. Will Walter have anything coming with spreads or money lines? And I'm excited to let you know, yeah, we will. The question is when, not if. Really for everything that you can project with sports, the question is when will Walter have it, not if Walter will have it. We're essentially working on, I probably over 10 different types of algorithms right now to get projections out, not just for the NBA, but for college basketball, not just for college basketball, but for the MLB, for college football, for NHL, really any sport you can think of. But the thing is, we are not going to release that algorithm in the WalterPicks app until we believe it is truly beneficial for the people using the app. So we are working on it, and we're getting very close. And yeah, that does include an algorithm to identify exploitable bets for spreads, for over-unders, and for money line. So it's coming. The question is when, not if. But my hope is to have a lot of that out by the next NFL season.
That's huge. That's big news. I know a lot of people have been asking for that, and it's kind of been like a buzz topic in a lot of our live streams and stuff. So that's really big news.
Yeah. So yeah, we talked a little bit about this Bulls game. I don't think I'd be taking the Bulls minus 4.5. But I definitely am interested in Zach LaVine tonight on DraftKings and on Fanduel at his price, even though he's probably the highest price player I'm willing to go for tonight.
Yep. Another guy in that matchup is Karl Towns. With the Bulls kind of shorthanded at center. I know Wendell Carter's a good player, but I think Karl Towns dominates the inside in that matchup, so I don't mind paying up for him either. There's a lot of guys I like at the center position tonight, but Karl-Anthony Towns kind of leads the charge along with a guy that I'm in love with is Bam Adebayo. So I don't mind paying up for Karl Towns, but if you can work him in and get a lot of guys at lower price, I think he's a good guy to pair with a guy like Zach LaVine in that game.
Yeah, agreed. And someone on TikTok's asking why I don't like the Bulls minus 4. I'm seeing it minus 4.5, even minus 5 in some places. I think it's gonna be around a 5-point game. I feel like it's a pretty accurate spread, which is why I don't like it. Generally speaking, I think it's a pretty 50-50 bet. Let's talk about a team that that I've been dying to talk to you about, Phil, because we haven't talked since the Celtics versus Pelicans game. Yeah. But the Pistons versus Pelicans is a game that I want to talk to you about. But first, let's just recap. The NBA Celtics were up by 24 points against the Pelicans this past weekend. The Pelicans had their biggest comeback in Pelicans history. And it actually ended up paying off for WalterPicks subscribers, Phil, because we had Zion Williamson and we had Jaylen Brown's over in that game, and they both ended up hitting the over in overtime. So I was happy about that. But as a Celtics fan, man, that game was absolutely brutal. They're on a really bad streak right now.
They just need to figure out how to win close games. And I thought that was something that they had down at the early part of the season. They were kind of coming in clutch, but then you know what it was when they lost those back-to-back games to the Pistons, and they slowly started to kind of fall into a rhythm of just lackluster performances. People really aren't figuring it out at the right time. And I saw a stat today that absolutely was amazing to me. They have a winning record when Tatum and Brown have like opposite games. So like if Tatum goes off and Brown doesn't do well, but when they both have a combined shooting percentage over 40%, they're like 3-9, I think, or it's like 3-6 or something like that. So it's just they got to figure out how to get the ball distributed, how to score efficiently, and how to pull it out on these last second games.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty brutal that like it feels like Celtics fans are putting a lot of the blame on Kemba Walker. But I mean, man, like if you miss your first 10 3-point attempts and you're still like he's still hucking them up in overtime,
Yeah.
it's really tough. It's really tough as a Celtics fan, and I want to be rooting for Kemba. Hopefully, he turns it around. Someone's asking Walter, "What's your parlay today?" Well, we got 3 player prop picks today, Bill, in the WalterPicks app, and we are 7 for our last 8 picks.
On fire.
7 for our last 8
on
picks.
fire.
We're on a very very good run, and I've almost doubled my bankroll, Phil, in like the last 4 days.
Yeah.
With how good our prop picks have been, and I know the same is true for a lot of our subscribers who stuck with us through like we had like our worst 2 week stretch right before this, and we were due, for this big bounce back week, and
Yeah.
and I would be. If I'm parlaying anything tonight, it's probably those 3 player prop picks together. And we'll talk about my favorite prop pick a little bit later in the stream. Make sure you're hitting that like button if you're watching live on YouTube. And if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, we're live on YouTube right now as well. Someone says watching live from my Ithaca dorm. Hell yeah, man, I love that. My alma mater. I'm repping Ithaca tonight with the shirt. But yeah, that's probably my favorite parlay of the night.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, 7 for 8 these past 4 nights, absolutely on fire. The Joel Embiid pick actually ended up being pretty well, even though he had 4 points at halftime. I think he turned it around a little bit, but that's all right because we're rolling. And I like the slate tonight. I like the picks tonight. I'm riding with it, and yeah, no, I stuck with you through the 2 week stretch. And the thing that people I think we were still above 50% during that 2 week stretch. We're still hitting.
We've never been below 60%.
Yeah.
Which is insane. I just read an article yesterday, Phil, that I forget his name, but like someone regarded as like the best sports bettor of all time has a 57% career accuracy, like a lifetime accuracy of 57%. Like people don't realize with sports betting, like if you're working with like a -110 to -120 lines, like anything above 53%, like you're making money.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's pretty crazy. So that we have really high expectations out there for us, and rightfully so. And I have high expectations for us too. Like my goal is to stay above 60%, but definitely pretty crazy when people are complaining about like a 59% accuracy. Will the Walter app ever do basketball spreads? Yeah, we addressed this one earlier. Yeah, we will. The question is when, not if. We're working on literally every sport and every single possible bet right now. But we're not going to release anything until we're really confident it's going to make our subscribers money. Like that's the end of the day. That's the goal. So we're working on it, and it will be released once it's a profitable algorithm.
You'd love to hear that. Someone in the YouTube chat. Oh yeah, no, go ahead.
I want to talk about this Spurs Thunder game because it has probably my favorite play of the night, which is SGA, who's been like a little bit streaky, but I really like this matchup against the San Antonio Spurs tonight. SGA, he's averaging over 23 points per game on over 15 shots since George Hill went down with an injury about a month ago now, and he's one of the he has one of the biggest, most consistent usages in the NBA, and he's up against the Spurs, and no team in the NBA has allowed more points per game to point guards this season than the Spurs, and SGA plays kind of a point guard, shooting guard role, but I really like the matchup tonight against the Spurs.
Yeah, no, this is a game that when I first saw it on the card, I was kind of iffy about it. But then when you look at the injuries and kind of everything surrounding the game, it's super interesting. Like the Spurs have nobody tonight. DeRozan's out. Rudy Gay is out. Keldon Johnson's out. LaMarcus Aldridge is going to play, but he's a little banged up. So the Spurs are kind of throwing a combination of DeJounte Murray, Lonnie Walker, and LaMarcus Aldridge out. And that's pretty much it. I think Trey Lyles, Keita Bates-Diop, they're going to play big roles in this game too. They're 2 very good value players on FanDuel if you're trying to stack some high-priced guys. I think you can get both of them for under $3,500.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, so those are 2 really, really good value plays. But SGA has got to be in your DFS lineups. Um, DeJounte Murray isn't a great defender. Lonnie Walker isn't a great defender. They're both known for their offensive kind of games. DeJounte Murray's quick, and he can probably stick with SGA, but I think he gets Shea Gilgeous is going to go out and get his. And then another guy I really like is Lou Dort. I've been seeing a lot about him on Twitter and his defensive game. But Lou Dort he's becoming he's getting some notoriety in the NBA. So I like him tonight at 4,600 on FanDuel. I plugged him into a few lineups, but definitely known more for his defensive stats and his offensive stats. But yeah, this is gonna be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Dort as well. I have a very soft spot in my heart for all the defensive players. Someone on TikTok asking if we will ever do Premier League soccer. We'll definitely get there. Again, we're working on basically everything right now. But yeah, this Spurs Thunder game, it should be a good one, and it's supposed to be the closest game of the night too, which I like in the NBA. After really a lot of our props that have missed this NBA season have missed because the starters just aren't even playing in the fourth quarter. Sometimes in these games, there's a 25-point lead in the fourth quarter, and then they just sit everyone. And it doesn't look like that's happening in the Thunder game. It's not even a 1-point spread. It's essentially a pick 'em tonight. Slight edge towards the Thunder, but it should be a really close game.
Yeah, and the Spurs, the guys that they're going out with, their scorers. Aldridge can go out and get 20 any night. Murray can drop 30 on a dime. And Lonnie Walker is a guy that we bet on early on in the season, and he's a proven scorer as well. So here's a good question for you, though. And this is one that I've gotten on Twitter a lot. Will Walter ever take unders for props?
Yeah, oh my God, it's a good one. And I think I have a couple different responses to this. One probably the short answer is probably but our algorithm right now is built specifically to identify overs. It's not built specifically to identify unders, and we built in that specification to it. Partially because overs are just way more fun than unders, right? Life. I forget who came up with this quote. I think it was someone at Barstool maybe. But life is actually, I truly agree with this. Life is too short to bet on unders. But at the same time, I think that if we were to build out an algorithm that specifically identified unders, it would probably do better than the overs. The books do tend to kind of push up these over unders because they know people bet on the over. So yeah, my answer to that would be probably. But for now, we're focused on the overs because the bets are just way more fun. And honestly, if you're not having fun with the sports bets, then I think you need to reevaluate why you're sports betting.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I hate rooting for people to fail.
Right.
It just it takes the fun out of it, takes the wind out of the sails. But I know a lot of people out there that are super into rooting for the under. I hate it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, when I feel like losing an under bet is 2 times as painful as losing an over bet.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there aren't any bad beats in unders too.
Right. Yeah.
Which is half the game.
Yeah. Agreed. I definitely agree. Yeah. So what game do you want to talk about next, Phil?
Let's see. What do we hit on so far? Oh, my Miami Heat. They let us down last week, but they're going up against the Toronto Raptors. And I think this is another game that's theirs to lose. They're 2-point favorites right now. And I think just off the top of my head, Bam Adebayo. It's another team with a weak center position. Aaron Baines has been very lackluster for the Raptors. Other than that,
he's just not a defensive player.
No, and he's going to get a lot of Chris Boucher. He's going to get a lot of Pascal Siakam, but I think Bam goes and feasts again. I think his over-under's at 19.5. I'll probably take it. But I think Bam Adebayo is going to absolutely feast. The Heat do have a little bit of an injury bug right now with Tyler Hero and Goran Dragic again. So I'm going to wait to see. I think those injuries are game-time decisions, so it's going to be tough. But I think Miami pulls it out regardless.
Yeah, I like the Heat again in this one too, and yeah, they did burn us last week. But I like Adebayo in this one as well. We haven't projected for right around exactly 19 points, and his over-under's at 18.5. I don't hate it. I'm a big fan of Adebayo too. We're gonna talk a little bit about him when we talk about some of these All-Star snubs. I just posted a video on TikTok of my top 3 biggest snubs, and we'll discuss those But yeah, I like Bam Adebayo in this spot too. There's really no solid interior defender for the Raptors, but I actually like Siakam in this spot a little too.
Yep.
Like the the Heat haven't been great against players like Siakam this season, so I don't mind him on DraftKings and FanDuel as well tonight.
Yeah. I mean, the Heat are struggling. They don't really have an identity right now. Jimmy Butler and Bam they're gonna carry him obviously, but Duncan Robinson kind of looks lost out there. And other guys that are contributing. Kendrick Nunn has been a really big piece for this team these past 2 weeks with all the injuries. So I don't like him tonight because I think he's a little bit overpriced. I think he's around 6K on DraftKings and FanDuel. So I'm staying away from Kendrick Nunn. But yeah, no, I think another guy that you have to consider is Fred VanVleet. I don't really know who he's going to get defensively, but he can shoot. And Miami doesn't really have a defensive identity right now. So as long as Jimmy Butler doesn't go over towards Fred VanVleet, I like his points opportunity tonight. But other than that, Kyle Lowry's coming off an injury, so I don't really like him too much. I also think he's a bit overpriced. And then Norman Powell, stay away from him. That's one of my guys on my do not draft list, just because of the Jimmy Butler defense.
Yeah, he's been pretty good recently. He's over under 17.5 tonight. I would probably stay away from the over there. But yeah, he's also a guy that's been pretty streaky. Like I definitely wouldn't be playing him in any head-to-head or 50-50 contest tonight. But if you're in a tournament, Powell could be an interesting one. His price is also just a little too high for me right now. But he's definitely been scoring points for the Raptors without Kyle Lowry.
Yeah. No, he's been a really good big bright spot for them. And part of the reason why they've gone on that streak that they did. But just the Heat with Jimmy Butler's defense, and he's their go-to guy. Jimmy Butler's going to shut him down. I think he still gets around 15, 16 points, but I think there's a lot of guys that you can draft at that price for. I think he's around like 68, 6,700. So I'm staying away.
Yeah, let's transition to probably the game I'm most excited for after the Celtics game tonight, which is the Suns versus the Hornets. The point guards in this game are going to be a really fun matchup to watch. I mean, we got LaMelo Ball, who's been absolutely balling out and really like leading the charge on offense for the Hornets recently, up against arguably the best backcourt in the NBA right now with Chris Paul, Devin Booker. So it's going to be a very fun game to watch, and the Suns are huge favorites in this game. I think 8.5 or 9.5 point favorites. Gordon Hayward's questionable with a hand injury, but I think he's going to end up playing. But I do really like Booker in this game, and I feel like he's motivated right now.
Yep.
I feel like he's motivated right now because of that All-Star snub. Sam, I need motivation to go to my class. Go to class, learn something, and then turn it into something useful in your life. Like go to class and actually try to think about how you can apply that class to something real. Mm-hmm. That's your motivation for you.
It's good advice.
Yeah, I like LaMelo Ball and Booker a lot tonight.
Yep. Devin Booker gonna ball. He's gonna have to ball. He's got something to prove. A lot like Domantas Sabonis. But other than that, yeah, there's a lot of interesting players in this game. DeAndre Ayton going up against Cody Zeller. I think he's a guy, he can dominate that matchup. So if he gets his chance, he's going to get some touches. Jay Crowder's another good value play. Whenever I see Jay Crowder on DFS lineups, I'm always a little hesitant because he's very open to giving up the pass or giving up the open shot to get another pass going. But the Phoenix Suns are rolling right now, and if you're betting against them, you're doing something wrong. So,
yeah, and the only reason the only concern in this game between the Hornets and the Suns is if it's just a complete blowout from the Suns and nobody's playing in the fourth quarter. Like that's the big concern.
Yeah. No, we'll get to our picks later, and I have a pretty interesting pick. I don't know if I love it, but that was my spread of the night was the Hornets plus 10.5. Because
that's a lot of points.
It's so many points, man, and it's like I hate it. I hate betting double-digit spreads. So, and the Hornets can play. They can shoot. Malik Monk, LaMelo Ball, Gordon Hayward, Miles Bridges. They've got some pretty elite three-point shooters back there. So, if Phoenix wants to make it a shootout, and Charlotte's hitting their shots, this could be a game.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a lot of points. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I think I like the spread I chose a little bit more, and we'll touch on that later. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate it. I definitely don't hate it. Let's move to the I think one of the last games we haven't talked about yet, which is the Houston Rockets versus the Cavaliers tonight. The Rockets come in as 4.5 point favorites. This game is one of the highest over unders of the night. There's a projected big game from Colin Sexton tonight. I don't hate him on DraftKings and FanDuel. Another guy who's really been huge for the Cavs is Garland, and I think he's going to have another good game tonight. And I think my favorite center of the night it might be Jared Allen, who should have another big night against the Rockets.
Yep. Jared Allen's in a lot of my lineups. Colin Sexton, I've dabbled with him. But you just don't know who to trust with the Houston Rockets. You know, they're a team that you got to stay away from and kind of fade right now. But I like Cleveland tonight. I do think Colin Sexton has a big night. Darius Garland's going to chip in and get his. Jared Allen probably going to be their cornerstone center for the next few years. So they're going to start going to him a lot more, and he's a piece that they've wanted for a very long time.
Yeah,
But
Jared Allen's a beast, man. I love that guy.
he's insane, you know. And I feel like he's kind of gotten overlooked in a lot of the places that he's been. So I feel like he can make a home in Cleveland, and if they commit to him, then he can show them what they do. It's kind of like a perfect scenario, and he's a part of their young core. The Cavaliers are going to be a good, fun team to watch for the next couple of years as they develop these players. But for the Rockets, you really don't know who to bet. Like, I don't know who to bet on or pick. John Wall is going to be the highest scorer, but other than that, like, they got nobody.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And we got a couple more games to touch on. I want to get to the All Star players, but is there anyone else from this Cleveland Houston game? We're waiting on a lot of injury news. I think from the Houston side, the only prop I'm seeing posted for the Rockets still right now is just John Wall over under 24.5 points. So he's an option tonight too. But I think we have him projected closer to 22 points. John Wall has been actually pretty streaky this season, so I would probably stay away from him.
Yeah, I have one guy, and I just want to get his stats up right now so I don't get this wrong, because he is a deep sleeper. A third-year center out of Creighton. You can get him for $3K, Justin Patton. All right, and he's a guy that he's probably going to take a lot of the center starts or center minutes, backup center minutes from who was it, Boogie Cousins. He played in his first game with the Rockets yesterday or 2 days ago. He played 21 minutes. He had 4 points and 6 boards against the Bulls. I don't like his matchup against Jared Allen, but for $3K and a guy who's going to play 20, 25 minutes, there's a potential to go off. He's a streaky player. I watched him play a lot in college, but I really like Justin Patton tonight, and he's a guy that I plugged into my lineup so I could get a lot of those higher priced players. Maybe take a hit, but he could be a guy that could unlock some lineups.
Yeah, and speaking of value plays, let's get to my favorite value of the night, and that is my guy Sadiq Bey. I really am a big fan of Sadiq, and I don't know if I'm saying his first name correctly. I think I am. I don't watch sports with the sound on, Phil, so you'll learn this about me. I pronounce a lot of names incorrectly because I don't like the announcers inundating me with like their personal bias because I look at a lot of data every day and I don't want these commentators affecting our accurate projections. So I watch without the sound. And so
smart.
Sadiq Bey though he's my favorite value play of the night, and it's honestly like really not close. And the ownership projections I've seen out there aren't even that high for him. He's been extremely consistent. He's kind of taken over a big role for the Pistons since Blake Griffin has stopped playing for them. And he's scored at least 10 points now. He's scored at least 10 points in each of his last 8 games. He's averaging almost 15 points per game in that span, and he's attempted at least 7 threes in 3 straight games. And his over-under right now is listed at 12 and a half. So I think he's a great value play. I really love his prop tonight too. And he's up against a team too. The Pelicans have been pretty good against his position, but I think a small forward. But they've also allowed the 4th most threes per game, which is kind of where he makes his money. So I'm a big fan of Sadiq Bey tonight. He's really not priced high enough on DraftKings and FanDuel, in my opinion, tonight. So I'm all in on him.
Yeah. Now, he's another guy I watched to play a lot in college for Villanova, and you're right. He's caught fire at kind of the perfect time with Blake Griffin going down. and them looking to trade him. But the Pistons have a lot of guys coming up. They just got Dennis Smith Jr., who balled out last night for him. Saban Lee balled out last night for him. But the thing about Sadiq Bey is he's kind of given Jeremy Grant a wingman. And Jeremy Grant is, we talked about him last week, candidate for most improved player, a guy who's going to go out and score 20 points a night, and a really big surprise for the Pistons. So Sadiq Bey, giving him a guy to dish to when people collapse on him, it's going to mean the world to the Pistons, and hopefully get them some momentum moving forward so they can kind of try to turn things around.
Yeah, I totally agree. And on the other side of the ball tonight for the Pelicans is honestly one of my favorite players to watch this season. And I've been a big fan of LaMelo Ball. I was honestly like not very into the whole Ball family like the past couple of years, especially like before they were in the NBA, where it was kind of all about the dad. But I mean, the Ball brothers they're starting to ball out. Like straight up, they are getting better each year. And Lonzo Ball is really like, there was some trade rumors like 3 to 4 weeks ago, and since those trade rumors, he has really picked it up. He's averaging almost 17 points per game over his last 5. He's really shooting the ball from deep far more often than he was. He's attempted at least 6 threes, Phil, in 11 straight games. 11 straight games he's attempted at least 6 threes. Yep. And the Pistons also haven't been very good against point guards this season. They're allowing the second highest field goal percentage to point guards. So I'm a big fan of Lonzo. Probably my 2 favorite DFS plays of the night. I think I was touting Lonzo last time we were on the stream, and he really ended up paying off for us. And by the way, the lineups I shared with you on the stream last time, both of them ended up cashing in every 50-50 I was in. And I expect the same thing tonight for the lineups we'll go through. But I'm a big fan of Lonzo Ball and Sadiq Bey tonight.
Yeah, no, the lineups last week were brilliant. Thank you for those. But yeah, the Pistons, their guard situation is horrendous right now. Dennis Smith Jr. Coming back after that spat with the Knicks. He played really well last night, but he's never been a great defensive player. And then DeLon Wright's injured. Wayne Ellington's injured. So they really don't have any guys that you can throw at Lonzo Ball. And being a 6'7" point guard gives him the advantage all over the floor. Like, there are shooting guards or small forwards that can't guard him. So I really do. I agree with you. I like his matchup tonight.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I want to pivot very, very quickly. I got a good question on TikTok about a fantasy football keeper league. It'll take 10 seconds. Someone's asking Christian McCaffrey round 1 or DK Metcalf round 5. Listen, any question I'm ever getting with Christian McCaffrey, the answer is Christian McCaffrey. He's the 1.01. He had the second best fantasy football season of all time. So yeah, like, there's no debate about him. Take him round 1 and be very happy about it. We can go back to basketball now.
You want to switch over to the lineups?
Yeah. Let's go through my 50-50 lineups tonight, and the ones that I'm playing over on DraftKings and Fanduel. Which one are we starting with, Phil?
You are up with your DraftKings lineup.
All right, let me pull this up. Yeah, I think I like my DraftKings lineup maybe even a little bit more than my FanDuel lineup tonight. I just like the way it came out, and for the people that are watching on YouTube too, if you're watching live on YouTube, you can see this lineup on the screen right now. If you're on TikTok, you won't be able to see it, but there's actually $300 left over at the end of this lineup, so there's room to improve it too if you're gonna kind of start here and improve it from there. So I'm starting with SGA. A few of my locks, guys that I'm locking into my lineup tonight. SGA, I'm locking into almost every lineup. Lonzo Ball, we already talked about why I like him. Price is only 6,400 is just simply too low. We've known he's a good passer, but the 3-point attempts really just give his point ceiling way more ceiling. And then I like Sadiq Bey. Again, we talked about him as well, only 5,600 on DraftKings, and that's going to allow me to pay up for Gordon Hayward, who's going to be extremely low owned tonight because of the questionable tag. I do think he's going to end up playing. Again, we talked about their big underdogs tonight. I like Hayward's potential to have a sneaky triple-double tonight. I won't be shocked about that. Peyton Pritchard, with Kemba Walker likely out tonight. I think he was officially ruled out recently. I won't be surprised if Pritchard ends up scoring and really like leading this offense for the Boston Celtics tonight. So I'm going with SGA, Peyton Pritchard. I got Andrew Wiggins, who I think is going to have to play a role. That's the one game we haven't talked about. Actually, no, we did talk about that Warriors game. But I like Wiggins pretty consistently, scoring at least 13 points a game. And then DeAndre Ayton, who's really like, we talked about them having the best front court, back court, but DeAndre Ayton's really benefited from Chris Paul, and they're a great mesh together. And then last but not least, Steven Adams is finally back tonight, and I really like the center point guard combo between Lonzo Ball and Steven Adams. So this is the lineup I'm riding with on DraftKings. And again, you got $300 left over too. So if you start here, I'm sure it can be improved a little bit further.
Yeah. No, something you just mentioned that's kind of something that I've been incorporating into my DraftKings and FanDuel lineups is the pick and roll. I think the pick and roll is a big part of the NBA, and it's a big part of a lot of these NBA offenses. So getting guys that work well together in the pick and roll, like Lonzo Ball and Steven Adams, Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton is a better example of that. But like getting those matchups and getting people that kind of feed off each other, it's a really good stack in some FanDuel lineups if they have the right matchups. So I definitely think that's something people should consider when playing, moving forward. But yeah, no, I loved your lineups. After making mine and seeing yours, it made me double check and rethink. But kind of going over to mine.
You want to run through yours? And
yeah.
If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, you can physically see our lineups on YouTube. So I really do recommend checking out that YouTube live stream. And make sure if you're watching live on YouTube, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Really helps. It takes you 2 seconds, helps us out way more than you realize. So we do appreciate it.
Yep. So which one do I got up there right now? I think I got. All right. Yeah. So for my DraftKings lineup, I'm starting with Jaylen Brown. I love him tonight, and I think it's definitely a matchup that's it hasn't really gone his way in the past few weeks with these past matchup against the Hawks. But like I told you last week, the way my mind works is I bet on trends, and these 3 matchups with the Hawks that the Celtics have had, Kemba went off in the second one, Tatum went off in the first one. I think it's Brown's turn to lead the team. He had a really good game last night after having a couple of shaky games, so I like his value. 8,400 is a little steep, but I think he's going to go off tonight. And then a guy that I absolutely love when I saw his price in his matchup is Kobe White for the Bulls going up against the Timberwolves. I think he is probably going to have a good game tonight. He's floating around 16, 17 points a game, maybe a little bit less. But the Bulls offense runs through him. Zach LaVine's going to benefit from him, and he's giving Zach LaVine a wingman. So if the Timberwolves kind of collapse on Zach LaVine, Kobe White's going to go off. And then Bojan Bogdanovic, a guy that we love here at WalterPicks, who's won us a lot of money. He is only 5,100. He's projected for 30 points tonight. I think he's going to have a great game against the Lakers, who are weak with Kuzma being banged up, Dennis Schroeder being out, and LeBron not at his defensive peak. I think Bojan's going to have a lot of open shots, and I hope he hits them, and I think he's going to be a really big key contributor for tonight for the Jazz. Sadiq Bey is also in my lineup, guy you just talked about. And then for my center position, Montrezl Harrell. I really like his matchup tonight, especially with Dennis Schroeder being out, with Anthony Davis being out. He plays hard. LeBron loves him. So I think Montrezl Harrell has a good game, and if Montrezl Harrell has a good game, they have a better chance of sticking in it. I know he has a tough matchup with Rudy Gobert and the other Jazz forwards, Royce O'Neal, Derek Favors. I think it's going to be a tough matchup for him, but he's a workhorse. You know, he's going to go get his. And then another guy that I love is Kevin Huerter for the Hawks. I think he's coming off a 21 or 22-point game. Struggled recently, but he got that three-point shot going. 5,400, really good value play. And going up against the Celtics, who aren't great on the defensive perimeter. He might draw Tatum. He might draw Brown. So that could be a tough matchup for him, but I love his three-point ability. And I think the Celtics and Hawks are going to score a lot of points tonight, so I threw him in there. Keita beats Diop for the Spurs. He's kind of like the value, like kind of long shot play. For $3,000, I put him in there. Hopefully he gives me something. He could be a guy that could unlock a lot of lineups and tournaments, and then bam, just the all-star. So that's my lineup. But yeah.
Yeah, I like it, Phil. We didn't talk about this Lakers game, but I agree. Like LeBron has had to really put so much of the offensive scoring for the Lakers on his shoulders that he just can't do as much on the defensive side of the ball. But he's really been putting the team on his back on the offensive side of the ball. This game's going to be the Lakers Jazz game. You had a bunch of Lakers players that you mentioned in that lineup, and it's going to be a very interesting game because the Jazz defense is good. It's one of the primary reasons they've been so good this season, and it'll be interesting to see how LeBron does tonight against a good defense with a lot of the starters out for the Lakers tonight. And the Jazz just feel to me like it's tough to know which Jazz player is going to go off. We definitely have nailed Bogdanovich a bunch this season though, and he's one of my favorite role players in the NBA, and he's like. I feel like if he goes, his over under tonight is 14 and a half, and like to me, he's either going over 20 or he's going to go under 12, and I feel like it's somewhat. He's pretty streaky shooter.
Yeah, no, I saw that line too, and I thought about it. I really did think about it for a second, but I'm staying away too, just because it's a blowout watch game. You really don't know how the Lakers are going to do, so I'm staying away with you.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely going to be an interesting one, and right now the spread. I mean, when was the last time LeBron was a 9.5 point underdog?
I was just about to say the same thing. I have no idea.
It's crazy.
It's insane. It's insane. Your FanDuel lineup is up if you want to run through that.
Yeah, so let me run through the FanDuel lineup, and I said I like the DraftKings lineup I think a little more, but I got to admit I don't hate this FanDuel lineup either, and we both like Adebayo tonight, and he makes it into my FanDuel lineup. We got three of the same guys. These are my locks of the night on DraftKings and FanDuel, and that's Lonzo Ball, Sadiq Bey, and once again we're going with SGA. So all three of these guys, they're similarly priced on FanDuel and DraftKings. So I'm locking all three of those guys in my lineups again. Pritchard's also finds his way into the lineup, and I think I had Andrew Wiggins in that DraftKings lineup too. After that, I think I had DeAndre Ayton in that lineup too. But after that, this lineup takes a little turn from the DraftKings one, just because of the differences in pricing on FanDuel. And by the way, this lineup's projected for like 30 more points than my DraftKings one, but it also has only $100 left in salary. But Dougie McBuckets, Doug McDermott is a guy who's really, really paid off on FanDuel so far this season. They continue to price him just simply too low for the ceiling he has in terms of points. So, this was more of just they continue to price him too low. So he's a great value play on FanDuel tonight. We got Bam Adebayo. We could fit him into this lineup. We didn't have enough to fit him into the DraftKings one. And probably my favorite high-priced player of the night on FanDuel is Sabonis, who was the biggest all-star snub that there was. And a lot of people, I feel like he's just not a big name in the NBA yet, but Sabonis has been absolutely tearing teams apart. And he's doing it not just by scoring points, but he's averaging 20, 10, and 5. He's the first player in NBA history, Phil, to average 20 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and not make the All-Star team.
It's crazy.
Like, absolutely deserve to be in the All-Star game.
Yeah, no, not to cut you off, but I do. So Sabonis, I thought his price was a little too high for my lineups. I couldn't really fit him in, but a stat that I'm going to throw your way that I saw today is Draymond Green is like Domantas Sabonis' kryptonite. And this has been something that was, I think he's slowly progressed a little bit, but against the Warriors and against Draymond Green, he's averaging 10.4 points per game. He's shooting around 42%. But his production has increased a lot this year with Victor Oladipo going to the Rockets and him taking over. So I don't buy as much stock in that stat as it is. I do think Sabonis has a chip on his shoulder and something to prove, and I definitely think he's a great value. 9,900's a lot, but I think he's a play. I think he's a good play.
You got a FanDuel lineup to share?
Yeah, let me pull it up for the people. So for my FanDuel lineup, I kind of went with a lot of the same guys. A lot of my players that I focused on, I have a couple different lineups. This was my favorite just because I think there's a lot of I think there's a good chance that this lineup goes off, and if it does, I think it's going to do really well. Coming from the Thunder Spurs game too. DeJounte Murray, starting with him at point guard. I love his value. He's going up against SGA, who does have a really, really good defensive set. Kobe White, who I talked about, Colin Sexton, who we talked about, guys that are going to go off. Lonnie Walker, who's going to get a real opportunity to go out and score 20, 25 points. Jaylen Brown, who's in my other lineup. Sadiq Bey, who's in my other lineup. Same thing with Bam. But then Frank Kaminsky against the Hornets. Sneaky could be one of the best plays of the night for 3,900. We talked about how the Hornets don't really have a really big presence down low. I love Frank Kaminsky at that price. I wish it was DeAndre Ayton, but I'll take Frank. And then Karl Towns, who I talked about a little bit about earlier in the stream. I think he's going to dominate down low against the Bulls, and I think he's worth all
Frank
9,700.
Kaminsky. Frank Kaminsky's a name I have not thought of in quite some time. I'm excited to watch him tonight too.
Yeah, no, he's actually been getting some minutes. He's starting for the Suns,
Yes.
and I think it's for 3,900. Why not?
Yeah, and that's the thing on these slates. Like you kind of have to pick your you got to pick your poison with these lower price players. Like my lower price player tonight, it's Pritchard, and I think Peyton Pritchard for the Celtics is gonna have to step up in this game if they want any chance of playing. And I really like the way Pritchard plays. But yeah, Frank the Tank is also an interesting lower price guy. If that's the way you're going,
Yeah, is Peyton Pritchard starting? Or are they going to go with Teague?
I don't I don't think I'm not sure. I don't think he there's a chance. I don't think it's been announced yet, but I honestly don't think it really matters. And
Yeah,
it's very the Celtics are a very weird team on back-to-back games where guys who didn't play in their last game will end up getting 20 to 25 minutes tonight. Like don't be surprised if Grant Williams, who I think the other game, when they played against the Pelicans, Grant Williams got 0 minutes, and then their last game he comes up with 25. Like Brad Stevens really mixes it up, and with Kemba Walker out, Peyton Pritchard's getting at least 25 minutes tonight, in my opinion. Which just starting or not, I think that warrants his price, and
yeah,
and I do think he's gonna have to kind of run the offense once he's out there.
yeah. No, they really don't have a guy that can do that with Marcus Smart out and Kemba Walker out. So it's going to go to Peyton
Yeah,
Pritchard or Jeff Teague. But Stevens is starting to favor Pritchard over Teague just because of how hard he plays.
yeah, and I really like the Celtics. Really need Marcus Smart back. He's the heart of the team, and really I think their only chance to turn it around is Marcus Smart coming back and being able to be somewhat of a better offensive presence, at least from beyond the arc, than what Kemba Walker has done. But two guys we haven't talked about at all on this stream, Phil, which we talked a lot about last time, is Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who are going to shoulder the load again for the Celtics tonight. I think I like Jaylen Brown a little bit more on DraftKings and FanDuel just because he's priced $1,000 less almost on both platforms. But Jason Tatum's probably going to be the one who ends up having the better game. So I'm honestly kind of avoiding both of them on DraftKings and FanDuel tonight, but there's a good chance at least one of them goes off.
Yep, yeah. I picked Brown just because of that the trend. Kemba goes off, Tatum goes off. I think Brown gets his tonight. He just got named an All-Star for, I think it was the first time in his career. So I think he goes out and has a day. He needs to get that confidence back and going after that 4 for 20 or 5 for 20 performance that he had. He hit a snag, and I think he needs to go out and really prove that he can shoot at a high percentage, which he has been all year. I think he's floating around 48, 49% from the field. So I think Jaylen Brown goes out and has himself a night, and I think he's playing in Atlanta, which is his hometown. So that's another storyline to keep an eye on.
Yeah, great. I agree. So now that we've gone through the lineups, Phil, let's talk a little bit about this All-Star game. Can you pull up that graphic?
We are up. We're going. Yeah. Who do you want to start with?
We gotta start with Sabonis. I feel like he's the third or fourth guy people are mentioning as an All Star snub, but to me he was the biggest snub of the All Star game. He's the first player ever to average 20 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists to not make the All Star team. And I don't know, it's probably going to be years until that happens again. And I feel like it's just because he's just not that popular of a player, and there's almost this popularity contest aspect of the NBA All Star Game with the fans kind of getting a vote. So I think he's the biggest snub, and he's definitely been an All Star level player this season.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Especially with the lesser known guy thing, because the Indiana Pacers are a team that sneaky have been one of the most consistent teams in the Eastern Conference over the past 5 years. Even when they lost Paul George, they get Victor Oladipo and Sabonis in that trade, and they still get the third seed.
Yeah.
They were the first seed against it. They had those battles with the Heat when LeBron was there. So I couldn't agree more. I don't know why people aren't paying more attention to the Pacers. I don't know why people aren't buying stock in Sabonis, but he has the second most touches per game, second to only Nikola Jokic. He's an all-around workhorse. He can do absolutely everything. He's averaging 22, 12, and 6 with a little bit of a bump there. And yeah, like you say, he's the first player to average 20, 20, 10, and 5 and not make the All Star game. It doesn't really make sense why he didn't get the nod. I kind of get the numbers aspect of it, but um, I wish the NBA would kind of buff the rosters to like 15 or 16 because I think there are a lot of guys that deserve it, but they just don't get the opportunity to kind of show out. But if you're going to go Sabonis or Randall, who are you picking?
Yeah, I mean, I like Randall definitely deserved it too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's been a huge reason that the Knicks have had success. We talked a lot about him on the last stream. The Knicks don't play tonight, so we haven't really talked about him. But I think you can make the case for Sabonis over Randall. Like, I really do think you can make the case. And honestly, like the Pacers have arguably been better than the Knicks this season too. But Randall is the guy who plays in the bigger market and just has more fans. And like that almost is probably what it came down to, kind of as a tiebreaker.
Yeah, and I think Sabonis was an All Star last year, if I'm not mistaken. So giving Randall the nod makes a lot of sense, just because if you got one, why not give one? But I think Sabonis has had some help from Brogdon and Turner and a couple other guys. Jeremy Lamb stepped up. T.J. Warren being out has kind of pushed the ball into his hands a lot more, which is why we're talking about him so much right now. But Julius Randle has single-handedly kept the Knicks afloat, and he's doing things in New York that haven't been done there in decades, even when Carmelo was there. So I think it makes sense to give it to Randle. But a guy that definitely got snubbed, definitely should have been on there, is Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We both are big Bam Adebayo fans, and I think you mentioned you like his prop tonight. Walter didn't identify it, but we like Bam's prop every night, and I mean he carried the Heat this season. They had almost their entire starting lineup was out except for him, and he is the only reason they're still in the hunt, like in the league. And he's averaging almost 20 points, 10 rebounds, and in a little over 5 assists a game. Like he's close to that 20, 10, and 5 that Sabonis has too. But he's done it with far less than what Sabonis has been working with. Like most of what Bam was doing was without Jimmy Butler, was without Tyler Hero, was without Kendrick Nunn. Like he was really on his own carrying the Miami Heat, and he looks like a young Kevin Garnett when he was doing it. So yeah, I agree. He deserved to be in this game.
Yeah, and something that goes really underrated about Bam's game is his defensive skills. Like he guards 5 positions. Like when point guards get switches onto Bam, it's not a guaranteed go to the basket and score. Like Bam can guard shorter guys because he's so quick and he's so fast, and um, his defensive skills speak for themselves. Like if you ever seen the Heat play, you know that Bam is always going to be a monster on the defensive end. So I think that's another thing that gets overlooked about Bam Adebayo. But I
Yeah,
definitely
agreed.
think he got snubbed. I think the reason why he didn't get it is because the Heat are so far down in the rankings right now, even though they're starting to turn it around. Um, I think that definitely played a factor into who they chose.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. And the last snub for me, and there's a few more you can argue. There's actually two more that I really think deserved it. I mean, the guard position, the point guard position specifically, is like extremely competitive in the NBA. But Chris Paul over Devin Booker is a tough one for me to swallow. Like Devin Booker is far and away the better scorer and the better shooter. He's got over a 60% true shooting percentage on the fourth best team in the West, and he's like does not get enough credit for how he's molded his game around Chris Paul. Like we would be absolutely killing Devin Booker if Chris Paul was doing worse, but he's really been a perfect teammate for Chris Paul, and he's changed the way he's played a little bit, and he's still putting up points and being extremely efficient. I like Devin Booker more than Chris Paul, and Chris Paul has been great. And again, it comes down to somewhat of a popularity contest. Chris Paul is much more liked in the NBA than Devin Booker is. LeBron James said last night Devin Booker is the most disrespected player in the NBA, and I think I agree with him. I mean, like he really does not get the respect he deserves. He's one of the best shooters in the league.
Yeah. What he did in the bubble was insane. That
Yeah.
can't go understated. And what he did in the bubble is why Chris Paul went there. I think that's a big reason why they are so good right now is because they had that performance. And yeah, I mean, 25 points a game. I wrote down that he has a 60% true shooting percentage, which is insane. Um,
Insane.
it really kind of it fascinates me because I think what you said the popularity contest of the NBA played a really big factor in this decision. So I do think Chris Paul deserves to be in there, but you take Chris Paul away, I don't think Devin Booker's in the conversation for All Star, and vice versa. So it kind of
Yeah,
went
yeah,
hand
I
in hand.
agree. I agree. And it's I think Devin Booker is probably going to be the first one in. I think there's at least one injury that's going to let someone else in, and it's probably going to end up being Devin Booker.
Mm-hmm.
But the last when I you sent me earlier this morning like the list of guys I think were the biggest snubs, and I sent you Devin Booker, Sabonis, and Bam Adebayo were like the three that really stood out to me. And then I posted that video on TikTok of my top snubs, and one of the first comments I realized that I assumed that Trae Young was an All Star. Like I read the list, Trae Young's name was not on there, and I still like assumed he was on there because that's like absolutely mind blowing to me. And I feel like this one's not really getting talked about that much. How is Trae Young not an All Star? I mean, he's carrying the Hawks. He's putting up like I think he has more games over 30 points than under 30 points this season. Like he's an absolutely insane player, and he's probably going to put up 30 points again tonight against the Celtics. His over under is 31.5.
Yeah.
Like I was shocked to see Trae Young. Like not even is he not on the All Star list, but like no one's really even talking about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't even put two and two together. I thought he was automatically in, but I think the Celtics having two guys kind of kicked him out. Even though I do believe Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum both deserve to be in the game, I think Trae Young deserved that spot more than both of them because that's just how impressive he's been this season. Just the way he shoots, the way he leads. Trae Young he's bothersome to watch because he does kind of have that. I'm trying to figure out who to compare him to. He whines to the refs a lot, and that's something I've noticed by watching him twice in the past 10 days with the Celtics. Is he does kind of bark a little bit, but like he plays with a fire underneath him, and you can't not respect that as a fan, as a player. So I'm surprised he didn't really get the respect that he deserved, but yeah, that is probably another big snub that we don't even have up here in the graphic. I didn't even put two and two together.
Yeah, and the thing with Trae Young, like he just plays no defense. Like he's one of the worst defensive players in the NBA, and I feel like he gets a lot of hate for that. But I feel like the thing people don't realize about Trae Young is that he's 22. He's literally younger than we are, Phil. Like Trae Young is young, man, and he's one of the best scorers in the NBA. Like he's got many All-Star games ahead of him. Like I'd be pretty surprised if we don't see him in the game next year. If he continues to improve, like he I mean, he's 22 years old and he's a top 10 scorer in the NBA already.
Yeah, no, I mean,
someone in the TikTok comments is saying they feel like Trae Young should have been over Ben Simmons. And I could back that. Like Ben Simmons has been great. Don't get me wrong, and he's been much better over the past like 2 weeks specifically. He's getting more aggressive offensively, but Trae Young's absolutely a better scorer than Ben Simmons. And you take Trae Young away from the Hawks, and they could be the worst team in the NBA. Like so I agree. I think there's a debate to be had of Trae Young versus Ben Simmons.
Yeah, Ben Simmons definitely got hot at the right time. Started scoring at the right time, and the Sixers, they started really, really well. I think they had the best record in the league through 2 or 3 weeks, and then they kind of hit a bump in the road, and Embiid sat out with some injuries, not for too long, but they picked it back up, mostly because Ben Simmons in his offensive production. And then the Hawks, adversely, they went the opposite way. Like the Hawks went down. I think they lost didn't they go on a really big losing streak, or am I just making that up? I think they lost 8 or 9 games in a row.
Really big.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of games in a row for sure.
Yeah, so, which is surprising. I mean, DeAndre Hunter being out hurt them. It hurt Trae, but it's giving them more opportunities to ball out. So, I think the Hawks can get better. I think they have the pieces to get better. They got Clint Capella. John Collins is a stud. Trae Young's a stud. DeAndre Hunter's good. Kevin Huerter's good. So, if they figure it out, Trae Young's definitely an all-star. If they're floating around 500 right now, I think he's an all-star.
Yeah, I agree, and I want to talk a little bit about the MVP race before we get back to, and kind of summarize what we think of the games tonight to wrap up the stream. We got like 30 minutes ish left, and appreciate everybody watching live on YouTube right now. If you're watching live, hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help us out a ton. But I want to talk about this MVP race because I feel like there's a lot of guys that they should be considered for MVP this season, and to me, like if you're betting on it right now, I think my favorite bet is Joel Embiid. Like what Embiid is doing. Like if you watch that Sixers game last night, essentially the way that defenses have to guard Embiid now is the second he touches the ball, like they need to double team him. Otherwise, he will go score. Like he will get close to the rim and he will score. And the fact that he's 7 feet tall and can drain threes, like Embiid is an absolute tank, and I think he has a good chance to end up winning it if the Sixers can keep it up.
Yeah, no, if they stay in the race and Joel Embiid keeps dropping points like he's been dropping points, I think he is a fantastic pick and a guy that definitely deserves it too. He plays hard. He's got the attitude. He's got the guys around him to do it. It's just the fact that the Sixers haven't really been able to do anything in the playoffs just instantly like kind of turns me off from the Sixers. But yeah, a guy Jokic I think is far and away my number one right now, even though he probably won't win it. I think it'll probably go to like LeBron again if the Lakers pull it through and go back to the playoffs. But I think Jokic is my number one. He's like first in, or I don't know if he's first in usage, but first in touches per game, first in passes per game. The guy can do it all. He's a stud, and he's leading a Nuggets team who continues to ball out and compete. So I still like Jokic, but there's so many guys that you can consider this year. Like even Giannis. Giannis is back in it, obviously, but like Julius Randle has a chance at winning the MVP if the Knicks keep balling out and he keeps doing what he's doing. Like you can count these guys out, but all these guys. Go ahead.
If you look at the betting odds, LeBron James is still the favorite. Like, so if you want to bet $100 on LeBron, you're only winning 100. He's essentially an even bet to an MVP, and like it's partially because like you take LeBron. This is what always happens with the MVP race. Like with LeBron James is like if you take LeBron away from the Lakers, you like it's going to have the biggest impact of any player you take away from any team. And so when you come at it with that argument, it's hard to argue against LeBron. And he's been huge this season. Like he's having a great season. And then it comes down to like you don't want to take away from LeBron's legacy because this is another all-time LeBron season where we want to give him the MVP. So he goes down as the greatest basketball player of all time, which he probably already is. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But Joel Embiid, I think, deserves to be leading this race over LeBron right now with what Joel Embiid is doing. Like he's averaging more stats per game than LeBron is. The thing with Joel Embiid, it is going to come down to. It comes down to this every season. Really feels like for the Sixers is will he be able to play consistently and like will he be healthy at the end of games and like well conditioned in the playoffs that when he's at his 40th minute of the game, like will he be able to move around the court? It feels like when they go against the Celtics in the playoffs, like at the end of those games, he's just so exhausted and he's just not the same type of player anymore.
Yeah. I definitely like he kind of hinted on it the other day in an interview where he talked about his like fatigue and like his usage rating, but he doesn't see any stock in that. But like you could definitely see it as a fan, like it's affecting him just a little bit. Not having those guys, it kind of looks like the 2018 Lakers, like the team that just kind of just chugged along through the season. They weren't very good.
Yeah, I agree, and I think let's talk about some of our favorite game picks tonight. Let's get back to the games tonight, Phil, and go through kind of our favorite bets of the night. I want to talk about my spread pick of the night because it's aligned with one of my favorite value plays in DFS.
Yep. All right, you're up.
My favorite, and I missed, by the way. I like to be very transparent when we talk about betting. That's why in the WalterPicks app, like we track our record very transparently, and we're actually building in some functionality that's going to be out there very soon, where you can like click back and see exactly what we identified in the past. And so right now I'm 0 for 1 picking games. Right now I picked the Celtics. I picked the Heat last time as my favorite, and I think I picked the Celtics too. So I'm 0 for 1 though. I think the Heat were my official pick. So we're trying to get back to even tonight, and I'm going with. I really do like the Thunder. They're actually, I think when I sent it to you, they were -1. Now I'm seeing they're +1. I'm not sure what news changed that. Maybe Aldridge was confirmed to be in that time span, but I really think SGA is going to lead the Thunder to a win tonight. The Spurs allowing the most points per game to point guards this season. I feel like point guard SGA and Dort, it's a strength for the Thunder. So I'm taking the Thunder -1. Our algorithms have them at like a 55% win probability. I think they should be more like a 1.5, 2 point favorites here. So I'm going with the Thunder -1. I think they just match up really well with the Spurs.
Yep, I definitely agree with that. I like the Thunder as well. The Spurs injuries are just there's too many to count. And SGA is going to ball out. The stat that you gave kind of says it all. It tells the story of the night. And if Lou Dort can go out and do his thing and lock down DeJounte Murray or Lonnie Walker, then the Spurs really have no chance. But I do think it's going to be a game. I think it's going to be a close game. But I think down the stretch, the Thunder are going to pull it out.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think if someone asked earlier in the stream what's my favorite parlay of the night, and I think my favorite parlay of the night, I like the correlated parlays because parlays you're already losing your edge. Like they're more fun because you can win more, but they really do take away kind of any of the edge we can get in sports betting. But my favorite parlay of the night is probably SGA points and the Thunder to win. Like that's kind of a correlated parlay I can get behind
Yeah.
if your book offers it.
Yep. No, I definitely agree with that too. I'm not sure if FanDuel or DraftKings. I think they do some specials like that. But yeah, that's a really good bet. I've done that a couple of times over the past few weeks. Like last night, I did it with Jokic and the Nuggets and hit. So if you love the matchup and you love the prop, the two go hand in hand. So I definitely think it's a good bet either way. Even if it goes down swinging, you got a good chance. But my favorite spread of the night, purely because it's too many points and because I love the Hornets and I think they're a very underrated team, is the Charlotte Hornets plus 10.5. They're getting 10.5 against the Suns. And although the Suns have been absolute lightning, I think they have 3 blowout games in like their past 2 weeks. I like the Hornets to kind of turn the tide. I think Vegas kind of overvalued the Suns a little bit, undervalued the Hornets. If Gordon Hayward plays, this bet, in my mind, it's not like a lock, but it's a very, very strong play. I think the Hornets have a lot of pieces that can match the Suns' intensity. I think if Malik Monk, Miles Bridges, LaMelo Ball, Gordon Hayward, they can come out and shoot and score, then it's going to be a close game. I do think the Suns pull it out. I definitely don't think the Hornets' money line is a play, but I think 10.5 points is way, way too much in that game. But I wouldn't be surprised if I was wrong here. I would say this is like a 65-70% confidence bet.
Yeah, I like it. And let's go over to our prop lock of the night, Phil. You have a graphic for that?
Yep, it's up right now.
Yeah, this is, and I want to start this out with, we're working on getting our lock accuracy in the app too, but we have missed, I think we've identified 15 locks now. We've hit 13 of them. Like, the lock percentage is designed to be at least 75%, and we've been above 75% on our NBA locks this season, and I really, really like this one today. And it's Saddiq Bey over 12.5 points. Listen, Bey has scored at least 10 points in each of his last 8 games. I love when the prop is like within 3 points of the player's floor. Like his floor tonight, Phil, is 10 points. I would be shocked if Saddiq Bey scores less than 10 points. So he's coming within at least 3 points of this prop. He's averaging around 15 points a game over his last 8 games since Blake Griffin has taken a seat. And he's also attempting a lot of threes, which is another thing I like when we're looking at player props, because they can just hit that prop so much faster. It just takes less field goal attempts for them to hit the prop, right? Because threes are the most efficient shot in the NBA.
Yeah.
So we got a guy with a 10-point floor who's shooting at least 7 threes in 3 straight games. So I think he's going to have a very good chance, too, to keep it going from deep tonight against the Pelicans, who are giving up the 4th most threes per game to small forwards this season. So Walter's got Bey projected for a little over 16.5 points tonight against the Pelicans. So he's the lock of the night. I like him a lot. And for the same reason, he's one of my favorite DraftKings and FanDuel players.
Yeah. The Pelicans aren't anything special defensively. Like Brandon Ingram's going to give you something. Zion Williamson's going to give you something. But when you pull those guys at the perimeter, Saddiq Bey can feast out there. Zion Williamson kind of, when he's on his own out there, as an on-ball defender, he's a lot of skill, but I don't think he's going to go over to Saddiq Bey too much. I think he's going to focus on Jeremy Grant. So I love this pick. I'm riding with it. Another guy, this isn't a Walter-approved pick, but this is just something. Watching the Celtics so many times this season, I think Clint Capella is going to feast inside. We picked Zion, who hit the other day, even though it needed overtime. Zion went in, and he dominated the paint against the Celtics. So Clint Capella, going up against Daniel Tice, Tristan Thompson, both who have been a little bit lackluster, underwhelming this season. I think Clint Capella, 16.5 is a really good bet. Same thing with, we talked about Bam Adebayo. I love big man props. I'm just realizing that now. But Clint Capella is also a really good play that I thought I'd share with the people because I think there's a lot of value there. I think there's going to be a lot of points in the Celtics-Hawks game, and I think he's going to have a good opportunity to score.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Clint Capella because what he's been doing in the rebound column, you realize his over-under for rebounds tonight, I think, is 15.
Yeah.
Like I
nuts.
looked at the box score for Clint Capella last night in halfway through the first quarter. This man had 15 rebounds with 5 minutes left in the first quarter. Someone in the TikTok chat, thank you. He had 9 rebounds in 7 minutes. Like, how is that even possible? Like, you need people to like miss 9 shots in 7 minutes, which sometimes doesn't even happen in an NBA game. This man had 15 rebounds before the end of the first. He was on track for 40 rebounds in a game. Like, absolutely insane what he does. Like, he's probably going to get like around 20 rebounds tonight against the Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, I think the offensive glass has played a big part in that. The Hawks haven't had a lot of success shooting the ball, and the Capella's been giving them a lot of second chance opportunities. So, but even that's only getting him like 3 or 4. The dude just swallows everything that hits the glass. Like, it's insane. He gives you such an advantage, and I'm surprised that the Hawks haven't been able to capitalize on that.
Yeah, great.
But yeah, we definitely have a good slate going up there tonight on the WalterPicks app. 3 picks that we've talked about pretty much at length tonight that we all love. So if you haven't started your free 3-day trial, definitely it's a good time to start riding with us.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of free trials. Like, I feel like every service, any product really, like that you got to pay for, you should offer a free trial. Like, you got to let people know what they're paying for before they pay. So if you go download the WalterPicks app, it's an app that uses Walter, an artificially intelligent algorithm that I've spent over 4 years building and perfecting. Like 3 years really, like before anyone even kind of knew what Walter was, I was working on making it as accurate as possible. And you can get access to its player prop picks, its exploitable player prop picks in the WalterPicks app, completely free trial. And we got some people in the TikTok chat saying they're already premium subscribers and it's paying off for them. So I appreciate that. And definitely go try it out. It's a completely free 3-day trial, and it includes, if you sign up for the year, it's going to include all of our fantasy football content. We're going to help you dominate your fantasy football drafts and win your fantasy football league throughout the season. And we were absolutely dominating NFL prop picks, over 65% accurate on NFL prop picks over the last 2 years. So yeah, really do appreciate everyone trying out the app.
Yep, use it as a tool. It's such a good tool to have. It's such a good resource, and it's something if you're just getting into DFS, gambling, anything. You know, it's a really good tool to have on your side to kind of help you figure out your path.
Yeah, and I think that the most exciting part about it for me, Phil, is like this is truly only the beginning for the app. Like when we look back 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we're gonna view this time period of WalterPicks as like the very beginning OG days, and that's probably the most exciting part about it for me. And I just want to give a quick update. We've seen. I was just going to after I gave that little spiel on my lock of the night, which is Bay for the Pistons. He was no longer listed on the book that I use, and here's the reason why. Jeremy Grant will rest. He will not play against the Pelicans tonight, and that is great news for Bay, who's now even a better DraftKings and Fanduel value with probably the top scorer for the Pistons not going to be playing tonight. So even more reason to like Bay.
Yeah, and that's another reason why you should get the WalterPicks app and get those notifications up and running because he's going to shoot up to like 15.5, 16.5 points now, and we got him at 12.
Yeah, and if you make sure if you have the app, you're subscribed to those push notifications. We sent out a push notification today at 3 to go hammer Bay, so I hope everyone did.
Yeah, no, he's going to be like the number 1 scorer now for the Pistons.
Yeah, that's exciting. And I want to just quickly summarize my other two favorite DraftKings and FanDuel plays of the night. Lonzo Ball, I'm a big fan of. I think he continues to be underpriced. People not quite catching on to the fact that he has scored at least 12 points in 13 of his last 14 games. I love these guys with a high floor. Like Lonzo Ball's floor every night now is 12 points, and he's shooting it from beyond the arc far more frequently than he used to now too. And then SGA, we've talked a lot about him on this stream, but he just matches up perfectly against this Spurs team. I think SGA is going for at least 25 tonight.
Yep. Quick question for you, Sam. Someone in the YouTube chat said, my book doesn't offer a Bay prop. Is there something that means we just addressed that? Jeremy Grant is out tonight. Bay is now at 14.5 or more. Do you like that, and would you take it?
Yeah, 14.5. I think I still like it, and we got to wait for the updated projection in the WalterPicks app. Let me pull that up now, actually. But I'm very excited to hear that it's moving towards 14.5. I'm also glad we sent that out early. And yeah, I mean, we had him before Grant was ruled out. We had Bay projected in the WalterPicks app for 16.6. So even before the Grant rule out, I would have still liked it at 14.5. And I have a feeling he's going to be at least 17.5 with the Grant rule out. Like Grant's averaging I think over 20 points a game. So that's 20 more points a game really that is going to get dispersed through this offense. So yeah, I mean even before the Grant rule out, I would have liked it over 14.5. So that would be my answer to that.
Yeah, and I don't think this game is quite on blowout watch just yet. And even if it is, the Pistons are really, really shorthanded at guard. So Bay is going to get 25, 30 minutes regardless. And I feel like if he gets those 25, 30 minutes, even more towards 35, this thing's got to be a lock.
Yeah, I like it. Any summarizing comments from you before we wrap up, Phil?
No, I mean, I think there's a lot of good games tonight. I think there's going to be a lot of close games. There's not too many upset or blowout watches for me, so kind of just take our advice. I would say take our advice. I think we gave some good picks. But yeah, no, definitely use the DFS optimizer in the app. Start dabbling in DFS because it's really a fun way to learn more about the NBA, get more in tune with what is going on in the league, and just learn more about the players and everything like that. So, and plus, if you're going to start using NBA Top Shot like everybody's talking about on Twitter, you're going to want to know what you're buying. So, start using the WalterPicks app, use the DFS optimizer, and go win yourself some cash.
Yeah, great. All right, that's a stream, man, and we'll be live every Wednesday, the same time. Phil and I are going live throughout the NBA season from around 5 o'clock right up until around 6:30. Live on YouTube. I've been live on TikTok tonight as well, but YouTube's where you can see the nice graphics Phil's been putting together. You can really see the lineups we're playing every single Wednesday. So make sure you come back, and really do appreciate you guys hitting that like and subscribe button over on YouTube.
Yep. All right, guys. Thank you.
Have a